Ball a warrior like you never seen. Imagine the Royal Rumble taking place on the street, where it's on site, hand in hand, no snipes. Fine chicken in the street to be charged from the fight. Elbow drops from the top of a building, oh what a feeling. Damage competition with special moves that are vicious. To be the last one standing in a shrinking ring is the goal. No holds barred, winning is everything. That's where you find Nick and Nate. Nick with a luchador mask, Nate's a hipster, no debate. In the Rumbleverse, you gotta brawl, that's the only way. Even though some escape just to brawl another day. It's a magnificent melee, a fun-filled fight for fighters of all age. You had a long week, you need some R&R, you know. And the R&R's a Rumbleverse Radio, yeah.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Rumbleverse Radio. I am one of your hosts, Nick, aka Mr. Hype Man.
And I am Nate, also known as the Hype Hipster. Hype, y'all.
All right, so we're back finally. Remember when this was going to be a weekly show?
And Nick's been itching in his lederhosen.
It's not a lederhosen, it's a leotard. Anyways, yeah, geez, I've been waiting for this to happen, and it's finally happening. So it's really good to get back into it. And it is also really nice. Like last time it was a playtest and it's like we had like 2-3 hours maybe. And it's like if you didn't get it, oh freaking well, right? So if you just happen to be working that day, which luckily both of us weren't, but sort of is besides the point. If we happen to have been working because, you know, we have jobs and whatnot, it was just, we would have been SOL. So I'm so glad we were able to this time. And we both played it just like last time. And yeah, I mean, let's get right into it. Let's get into our thoughts about it. I feel like there's some stuff that's new and it's kind of hard to put my finger on it. I don't know. I definitely think, like, for instance, it used to be called like something mist or something, but now it's just called bad breath. So there's just some things that have been like kind of tweaked or whatever. So, I mean, hopefully that's not what they've been spending all that time on. Because it's like, oh, you just wanted to change the name, guys? Come on. But, I mean, you were kind of so-so, but you were still on the cautiously optimistic side of things. After this time, or after this playtest, where would you say you are?
I'm on a higher spot than I was with like Knockout City. Is kind of the litmus test for a majority of people that I can give when it comes to that. It is. I get what you're saying about something feels different, but you can't put your finger on it. For me, it just feels like tighter. It feels over. God damn it! I knew the moment I fucking said it. The moment I said it. No, but it just feels like it's more polished. Like it definitely feels like
the very
less
first
of a playtest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There was just certain things with the movement, and then the way I was just kind of navigating around the world. It kind of made sense, like it was ready to be played. Like, oh, this game isn't out yet, you know. So I think things just felt better and felt more cohesive, and they did look better visually. Yeah. Even though this is all on crossplay. I played on PC for this playtest, and it was across every console, which I thought was cool.
You know, it's funny because I actually had a different experience. As you know me, Mr. Hype Man himself, I've been so hyped for this. I've been so on board, and today has been a bit more tepid, if I'm being honest. And that's because I played a majority on PlayStation 5, and I played some on the PC. I think there's a couple of things in factor here, okay? Number one, maybe it's a little bit more optimized on PC because that's how I played it the first time. And the first time I was whooping butt. Let's just put it this way. The first time out of, I think like 6 matches, I was able to get 6 matches in before it, it just stopped or something. So in 6 matches, I think I won 2 times, but usually topped at least top 4, if not the second to last person, a majority of the time. So I was hyped up. This time around, so far, at the time of this recording, because it is still going. At the time of the recording, I've had about the same amount of matches. Actually, no, I've probably had a good, at least double digits, so 10 to 12 maybe, and I haven't had a single win. I've had a lot of close calls, but I haven't had a single win. So that alone just kind of makes it go down like I was at 11, now I'm down to 10, you know what I mean? But then the other thing that's been really kind of ruining my day is I think I was experiencing kind of what you were experiencing the first time, which was the floatiness. It wasn't super responsive for me. Even when I did get back onto the PC and I played a couple of matches there, because I would say, probably 10 on my PlayStation 5 and maybe 2-3 on the PC. And even switching to the PC, I didn't feel a difference. I didn't feel like it was more responsive. And if it was, maybe not enough for me to really notice the difference. And so there were just like, I think the last time we did our first impressions, I think there was just one specific time that I could point out, like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. A guy was diving at me, and on my screen, I was clearly out of the way, and yet this MFer just still was able to get me and launch me off of a building. And now that has actually happened more times to me, not less, So it is kind of funny that I wouldn't say we've switched spots, but I would say that we're probably down to the same level, because I was the top of the skyscraper, right? And you were just kind of stuck in the lobby, and you're like, this is a really nice building, and I think it's going to be a nice place to it's got a good foundation. And now you're probably like halfway up the skyscraper, and I kind of just met you down there because it is not as hype as it was the first time. But I also think another thing that could be playing into that is actually how many more people are playing this time. When the other one happened, I want to say, when it was just a few hours, there could have just been not as many people interested. This time around, they know there's 24 hours, so it could just be like, you know what, I can invest in this a little bit more. So they allowed themselves to, right? And so now I have a much bigger pool that I'm pulling from, and that could also be playing into it. But really, pushing a button and not having what I want happen is just is the biggest crux of my issues right now. Because especially in this brawler situation, it is kind of the split second where if it doesn't happen the way you want it to, it's just not great. I still have a lot of fun with it, because like one thing I pointed out last time is the fact that even when I was losing, I was still having fun. Unfortunately, this time it was more like half and half. Sometimes when I lost, I'm like, he totally outplayed me. And then the other time was, I said to do this, why didn't you do this? And I got really frustrated. And so that just kind of sucks because of how high up I was. To even go down even just a little bit is kind of like, well, darn it. So.
Yeah, I think you are right in regards to the optimization for PC, because I really didn't have that floatiness issue this time, or as much. I did have some mobility and movement issues that could be just in regards to the translation with PC and mouse. So that I don't think really has as much to do with it. After playing, because I played about 4 or 5 matches, I think overall, didn't win a single one. I think the highest I got was to maybe the 20s, but like the last several I kind of got out in the first 10. But most of them ended up in like a bunch of brawls, like a bunch of people that ended up getting on each other. So it was, a fun time. And I had some where I was able to use the different, basically the first 2 matches were me getting back to trying to figure everything out.
Oh, for sure. Right.
And so like, picking up stuff and then reading it to swap it out. So that one took me at least, I think I figured that out after the end of my second match of doing that. So, but the one thing that I feel like still leaves me from like being a 10 out of 10 movement experience, I feel like it's close, but I don't like the way that they have you press a button to climb. I can understand
I can see that, yeah.
the gameplay mechanic of it, but if this was given the same movement in regards to something akin to a Sunset Overdrive without the like speed, or more, actually the most apt comparison, which if you honestly just look it up on YouTube, you'll see what I'm talking about. In the more modern Lego like Marvel games, the bigger characters, which end up kind of being close to about the same size of your standard character in this game, the movement functionality there is like when you're in the big city setting, you go up to or you jump and you land on a building, you automatically start climbing up it.
Right.
So like this game, I feel like could benefit so much more, and it's designed to have a lot more verticality to it. But I'm kind of getting bored in some instances with the moment to moment, just trying to, I'm still, again, figuring the game out, and I, gotta get better at thinking about, oh, let me jump on this car to do a body slam, where right now I'm still kind of in a sense button mashing and pressing the different abilities, but like having to get on a building and basically hitting space on it, or hitting to jump and then just bouncing off because I haven't pressed F to climb up, it kind of got frustrating after a while.
For me it's a circle, and even then it's like X and then right next to it, so it's maybe a little bit better on consoles. But even still, kind of the same thing, even mantling. So even if I go, like, here's the corner, and I go up to it, and my body hits the corner, it won't automatically mantle, or I can't press, like, X again, which, like, you're thinking Call of Duty, you're thinking, like, Fortnite is a really good example. They just added mantling, right? And you don't press a different button, you press the same damn button that you pressed before, right? And if we think about other competitors, Apex Legends comes to mind. You scampering up a wall, you don't press a button to scamper up the wall, you just effing do it. So I do have to admit that's a extremely good point, because other than like picking up items, right? Like, it doesn't make sense why we have to press the button in the first place. It's like Jedi Fallen Order. Why the hell do I have to push a button to start climbing? It's so stupid. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's more like recent for me because I am trying to go through and platinum Lego Marvel Avengers, but like I was playing it, and I play a lot of the big characters on there, and it's a very similar proportion body wise, and so I'm kind of muscle memory expecting to be able to like press space and jump and like Billy Goat up this building, and it just doesn't happen, and it's like it kind of, that still leaves it in a novelty aspect for me, and kind of is what keeps it from being 100% when you're looking at movement especially. But like if they were to fix that, that would make it just, I feel like, more accessible to a lot of people.
I mean, plus if you think about it, either they were inspired by Breath of the Wild, or let's face it, they were inspired by
but even still,
I don't see how
the rock, like, you don't exactly have to press the button.
Exactly. That's what I was going to get at, is that like they were clearly inspired by Breath of the Wild, because I mean, maybe in a vacuum they could have just come up with this idea like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to climb up buildings or whatever? But even still, it's like, how could you not look at other competitors and see how they do it and realize that, this is kind of the better way? There are moments just in the heat of the moment where I'm just not really thinking about it. I'm thinking about getting away, so I'm trying to get an angle on it and then do a good elbow drop, and I just happen to forget to press circle, and it's just like, like, then I slide down, or I press it, but I press it late, so I do that thing where I slide and then start climbing, and it's like those precious seconds are just being lost over kind of just a dumb button press. If there is one major issue that I'm like, okay, this needs to change my launch, I would have to say it's that. I mean, I don't know a situation where I'm jumping towards a building and I'm not gonna climb, right?
Right.
So it's like, why not just make it automatic? What is the deal?
But that is my major complaint on it. Everything else, honestly, because I played on PC both times, I feel like graphically they did upgrade, or at least they were able to upgrade the engine enough and the network servers enough to be able to not drop in quality. But it felt surprisingly grounded on PC, almost to a detriment though, where I feel like it should have been a little bit more fluid. So that kind of goes in with the rigidity of the climbing, but like that's something with the movement and the floatiness that they can easily fix. I don't know if the pressing F to climb is something that can be so easily fixed, not having as much information on game dev, but like you got to think about it. There's a lot of stuff that's being going into that one action itself because you're constantly having to do that. So it's ingrained in some aspect, but yeah. I'm curious to see what other people's opinions are and if that's a thing that continues to come up. Maybe we'll get an ugly Sonic situation and they'll remove it.
Yeah,
but,
maybe.
I feel like just
well, not remove it, but remove the button press.
Yeah, I feel like just that one thing could help it in terms of like day-to-day gameplay be less of a novelty than like Knockout.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, since this is our like second time playing through it, let's maybe get more into the seeds of everything. What is your favorite kind of circle? You know, because the circle kind of starts in different areas or whatever. What would you say is kind of your favorite?
With the locations themselves, with the matches I've played, I can't tell you specific names, but the ones that I have enjoyed, I've had the most fun with brawl wise, usually end up around where like the motel or like apartment looking areas.
So like the high rises.
Well, no. This it like these are maybe 2-3 stories at most. Like,
gotcha. So that's the more like industrial area. Okay.
Yeah, but like that was where we had a couple instances where it was me running up on someone else, and then other people saw us fighting, and it ended up being like 4 or 5 people there.
Nice,
so like that was fun, but like also again that gets more anxious going back to what we had just talked about when it increases in that way. But yeah.
Actually, I love the climbing and I love being able to get on top of people, but there is something about like the more residential areas. And I think it's because when you do your climbing there, you pretty much just have to jump and then climb maybe up a little bit and you're already on the roof or whatever. Yeah. So the residential area I really like, and I do feel like maybe it's just a little bit more colorful too, right? Because you got the downtown area, which is like the high rises and stuff, and that all just kind of looks metal and glass. And then you kind of have the industrial area, and that is kind of bricks in metal, right? But then you have the residential area, there's a lot more green going on, there's just so much more colors. So it's like I like that aesthetically, but then also mechanically, because like I said, it's so much easier to get to the top of something and then jump down. And I do feel like in general, I feel like it's more varied, you know, because the skyscrapers, you know, it's just like, well, one's taller and one's not so taller, and here's the casino type thing, and here's the, I don't know, it's just not as varied, at least as maybe it's just aesthetically, but I really do like the kind of residential area. I do like that. Having said that, I do like it when it shrinks and the last part that it's on is a building. So it's like you actually are forced to climb to the top, and that makes for interesting situations, because then, you know, it brings this new strategy where knocking them off the building is essentially also knocking them out of the ring, and you can end up getting them ring out without having to like get rid of all their health or whatever. So I really like kind of that strategy of it. So far, let me know if it's different for you, but so far I don't think I've ever ended in a field.
No.
Yeah, so I like that. That's either on purpose or we've just both been really lucky, and I love that. I love being stuck on a building, and basically it's almost, when it gets small enough, it's almost like a match of Smash, but in 3D, because now just knocking somebody off could knock them out of the round, because, you know, every time it shrinks, you have 9 seconds, but if I just keep knocking you out, then it's like, oh, well, now he only has 7 seconds, and now he only has... So I really like that about it. And sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, with that, I think it's a combination of the basically the ratio between the character proportions and the world, especially when it comes to jumping and stuff like that, and kind of how they have to build it, but also with the combination of how quickly the ring system in this game versus other battle royales and how quickly it goes through, like it definitely keeps momentum up in the match.
Oh yeah.
And like, even if I'm only in a match for 10 minutes, like, it feel like I'm getting that satisfaction of, I'm not like just trying to run around trying to find someone like I am in like Fortnite or something. There's less downtime, which is fun, especially in this hectic type game, but I guess with this one, I can say pretty confidently, like, I have zero problem hot dropping, because it's more fun than having to run around and try and find.
Literally no other game, even other like melee based games, would I ever even consider hot dropping. But in this game, there is something cool about dropping, grabbing a crate, throwing it at somebody, or just smashing somebody. Then I grabbed a book and I chucked it at somebody. It only did like 5-10 damage, but it was just like funny, just be like, cheat.
Yeah. Here, take knowledge.
Knowledge is power. Yeah, I think one of the things that just makes this game so much more enjoyable is, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of you with the momentum. When you first start the round, the circle itself is already shrunk down to a certain size. So you're already going to be in either the high rise, the industrial, or the residential area. So you're already shrunk down to a very small size. And then every time it shrinks, like you said, it shrinks pretty fast. I mean, the first 2 rounds, maybe it's shrinking somewhat slow, and it all depends on your position, Renee. But like, one of the best things is if I get caught at the edge of the ring, it's not that hard to get to the center. I mean, name a battle royale and you have a chance of dying out of the circle, right? Fortnite, Warzone, Apex, so many others, right? You always have a chance of, oh no, I wasn't paying attention and now I'm going to die just because I'm outside of the ring. And that could be like the most frustrating death, because it's just like, gosh dang it.
Because I killed myself because I wasn't paying attention.
Right? Because then it's also just like, well, I'm sprinting and the circle itself is moving faster than me. So it's like, if you don't have a vehicle, like in PUBG is a really, really good example. If you don't have a vehicle in PUBG and you're not towards the center of where the next circle is going to be, then there's a really good chance that you're screwed, right? And it's like that kind of forcing you to do it a certain way, I really don't like. And then Fortnite, not as bad, but still pretty bad. And I'd have to say Warzone is just as bad, So to have this where I could be on the very outskirt and I could make it to the very, very center in very small amount of time, and that feels good because it makes it makes me feel like I have more options. It makes it feel more like my choice. Do I want to hang out over here? Do I want to do that? And even though it might only take like a minute and a half, right? Every circle is only a minute and a half, I think, or a minute and 40, and maybe towards the end it's a minute and a half, and then towards the very end it's only like a minute, right? So like how quickly it happens is great. But not only that, but then like being able to like pick up a box, right? Like, oh no, there's a gold thing, but it's on the outside of the ring. We'll just go out there really quick, pick it up, bring it back with you, smash it on the ground. I love that. That's freaking great. I know you might not know the names of them, but what would you say are a couple of your like favorite moves?
The one that I was getting a lot of use out of consistently was the
Hold on. Jesus Christ, buddy. Did you see that at all?
I did.
All I heard was and I'm like, oh God. I just happened to look like in the screen or whatever. Okay, well, he's probably going to be nice up there for a while. All right, go ahead. What's your favorite?
It was the sumo punch one. It had poison effect. Yeah. That one was probably my favorite because it did add that like cloud of smoke and like that disorienting part where it's constantly taking a little bit of damage.
Yeah, nice. What would you say is your secondary then?
The only secondary I really used a fair amount, because remember at this point I was like, oh yeah, secondary. it basically like every round was like, oh yeah, this, oh yeah, that. I picked up a whirlwind, and that was fun to use. But I definitely liked the sumo punch more because I liked the animation more, A, and B, it just seemed like it had more use to it. Yeah. Because I kept going around and kind of getting disoriented in general, especially because I'm having to keep up where the other players are running off to. And so, like, the whirlwind would just end up getting me twisted to a different position.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd have to say my number one is the uppercut. The uppercut is super fun, especially if you're able to charge it and you do, like, the super uppercut or whatever. Like, oh, that's so satisfying. But it's also versatile enough where you can execute it. If you don't want to do the charge, you can execute it quick enough. And if you get a purple version of it, it has high priority. That's one thing we'll have to talk about in a little bit because priority is a little confusing or whatever, but I like how it's high priority. Number two for me, I think, would be the whirlwind. And the cool thing about the whirlwind is I think if you charge it up, I'm almost 100% positive, but if you charge it up, you actually suck people in. So that's very useful because you could suck, or you could start. You could just. You could start charging, and they're like, "Oh crap, I'm gonna run away!" But then you let go, and it actually sucks them back. So that's really fun. I do like the palm because that's really cool, and there is a tackle that's okay, but pretty much any of the special moves that are grapples, I hate because I never seem to be able to pull them off. You know what I mean? So I really don't like any of the grapples. I those are the ones I probably use the least. But I did notice one thing from the last playtest to this playtest. There are certain ones that lock on. Like when I was doing the Palms of Fury or whatever, I did notice that I happened to be looking the wrong way right as I started. They kind of went to the right, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to miss. But instead it actually like auto-corrected, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then the same thing for a tackle. I started to go to push my button, and they were in front of me, and they kind of just went to my left. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to miss them. But same thing, it kind of went and like attack towards them. So I do like that. It does make it a little bit more versatile, but it also makes you as the player realize, or it makes you be more aware of your surroundings.
More awarer? Is that
I didn't say it weird. I said aware.
Okay.
It does make you have to be more aware of your surroundings and what's going on because, you know, I mean, do I love that it's auto lock if I'm not the one doing it? But yeah, I mean, I really like, I'd say, yeah, top two is definitely uppercut is my number one because especially if I get that purple and and then number two is, that the circling, the vicious like whirlwind, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
The dolphin dive is kind of cool just because I like being able to like land it just right or whatever. And I mean, yeah, some of the grapples are fun, but yeah, I don't know. Grapple in general can just be really hard to pull off. So then I was talking about it before. Priority. If you pause the game in the game, it'll actually show you this little like up and down. It has like red up here and green down here, and it shows you priority. And I think there's too much. I think there's way too much. There's like 8 different things. I feel like there should be rock, paper, scissors, right? If there's an attack, it should be counted as a regular attack, a vicious attack, and a special attack. All this in-betweens, and this has higher priority over this priority, and this priority is more than this priority. It's just too much. And for like the people who really want to get sweaty and really want to get into it, like me and you, we're making a podcast about it, talking about the different priorities could be like really interesting from a technical analysis. But from a average Joe coming off the street having to worry about, I pressed this button, I started to do it, but then this person grabbed me. How did that happen? Like imagining being that person getting grabbed. Yeah, that's annoying as hell. Being grabbed when it's like, but I did my thing. So me as a hardcore Rumbleverse player, I'm going to be like, oh man, I didn't have priority. I'm going to know that, right? Because I am Mr. Hype Man. I know everything. But yeah, just a regular old person who's it's their first couple matches and they keep trying to attack, but then they get an unblockable, right? Unblockables are actually really easy to understand, right? It's unblockable. Yeah. It says it right on your screen when it happens. But then there's some other attacks where it's like you attack, but then you get canceled, and it can just be really frustrating from a beginner's point of view, right? And so I think having that priority list and there being like 8 of them, it's like, no, every attack should fit into just rock, paper, scissors. This beats that beats this. Having too many of them is just a little, it's just too much. It's just too much. And God forbid I'm this and the person that beats me is this. It'd be one thing if I was the bottom of the list and they were the top of the list. Yeah, sure, okay. But then it's like, oh, come on, I just happened to use the wrong thing. And sometimes it could just be abilities, right? He uses his ability. Like the uppercut, I think, is a good example. I love the uppercut, but it's not just because it has high priority. I love it just because. But it has high priority. So I could start my special. They could also do a special. And in some cases, when you do 2 specials at the same time, or you do 2 attacks and they're the same attack, you have what's called a clash. So you clash and you both just kind of stamper back. And you're like, oh my gosh, right? But instead, I could have like a purple uppercut and they could have a purple something. But because mine has quote unquote high priority, mine goes through his and, that could end up with a kill, right? And it's like,
right.
Yeah, I don't know how many priorities there needs to be. There doesn't need to be that many. So
there needs to, I think that there are areas where they're trying to do too much.
True.
Which is understandable. They're wanting to try to differentiate, but I think if they kind of bring everything back towards the middle in between now and what the actual launch is, then it'll be a much better product for sure overall.
I mean, how much easier just from a visual and aesthetic, pausing the menu and just having this little triangle. Or a little, like the arrow, like the recycling arrow. This beats that beats that. Like, that would be so much easier to understand than, like, like hands in poker. What beats a flush? What beats a world? That's what I feel like I'm looking at. It's like, okay, I have 3 of a kind. Does that beat a full house? I don't know. Like, let me look at this freaking random bar graph or something. Like, it's just slightly too complicated for somebody who just wants to have fun. Like I said, if you're a part of a group and you're just a bunch of sweats or whatever, you're going to have so much fun analyzing this. And even me and you will have fun analyzing this as the time goes on with this. Okay.
Bunch of sweats. I like that.
Yeah. Just a bunch of
sweats. I like that.
Bunch of sweats. Yeah, we're going to have fun, like, analyzing, and we'll have our deep dives, right? And we'll have our tips and tricks and all this fun stuff, and it'll be fun for us. But for somebody who literally just wants to play the game, just wants to have a good time, it can just be a little bit too much. You know, yeah. I'd even say, like, Fortnite nowadays, too much. There's too much going on. Somebody who just wants to have fun, it's like, oh, should I do this quest? Wait, what's this person over here? I'm going to shoot them. Oh, wait, I can talk to them? Like,
yeah,
too much going on.
You got me back into it, like, whenever I started playing, you're like, I got to do this quest. I'm like, oh, wait, what? And it was just really having not played pretty much since chapter 2.
Yeah, no shit.
Like, it was just a lot. So yeah, especially starting out, I think they do need to simplify it a lot more if they want to get more intricate and, you know, upgrade the different abilities and moves and stuff like that later, sure, but you want to find that balance between being something cool and something super niche versus something that's, you know, and that's not to say it's a bad thing, but you can definitely tell, at least by the art style and the game itself, how it's supposed to be targeted to get that crowd away from Fortnite.
Yeah, basically. Either it being a replacement for Fortnite or a supplement, or not supplement, what am I trying to say? Is supplement the right word?
Yeah, supplement would work.
A supplement would be, something that you can have alongside it, you know? A amuse-bouche. It is amusing. Anyways, but yeah, something that you could just play alongside it when you're getting tired of being, you know, sniped from a freaking mountaintop, right? So
mountaintop.
So yeah, I mean, this second playtest, funnily enough, went a little bit better for you, a little bit worse for me. So it is interesting just to be on the same page now. So where do you think? I mean, I'd hate to number it, but 1 to 10, where would you think you were before versus where you think you are now?
Before, I would say I was probably at like a 4 or 5.
Oh wow!
Not saying that it was bad, but in terms of a game for me, of a game I would regularly play, or like could see myself. Oh, I'll play a couple matches. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm like I liked it better than the Darwin Project, for example. Whenever you know, kind of an older. But now I would probably put it at closer to a 6 or a 7, to where it's like I like what I see. I do like the feeling of it, and I like the idea of it, and I think it, you know, with more time with it, and getting to actually playing the game how it's supposed to be played, and getting into the intricacies of it will be probably get hooks in me like it does like with Deep Rock. But there are just certain things that I feel like it just keeps it from, at least after this playtest, there's things I'm just like, I'm not all the way there yet.
Yeah.
Not right at climax.
So I would say, obviously, I was at an 11. I was at a 10. I was ready to go. I'm like, release it right now. Release the dogs. I was ready to go. And I would say this time it is 8. You know, so I'm still up there. I'm still ready to go. But there was definitely some moments, like I said before, it was just like, okay, I pushed the button. What happened? You know, and that could, especially during a PvP, that can be the most frustrating thing. And it just didn't seem to happen as much last time. And I don't know if that's just because more people were playing, or even just more people were playing at the time, right? I started right when it started. And, well, I mean, I've played it throughout the day, but, you know, still, I don't know. Point being, I'm still at an 8. I'm still rearing to go, but it's just not quite the levels of hype I was before. But I can't wait to, you know, keep going, keep figuring stuff out. I mean, the strategies, I can't wait to really get into that in the strategies or whatever. Like, are you going to go for a more strength build, a more stamina build? Are you going to build up your core so you have more health or whatever, so you're going the more survival route, right? There are so many different strategies that we can go over and we can talk about. Like, so many things that I can't wait to just, like, go through with you guys. It's going to be it's going to be super fun, you know. So I think we'll have one more episode right before the July test, because there's going to be one in July, and then we'll have another one in July. And then at this point, I'm kind of just crossing my fingers that they're going to eventually release it in maybe like August, so that we could keep doing this podcast. Because hold on, we're doing it live, folks. The last episode we had was in June? Oh my God, it was in February. It was in February, and it now is June. I tried to say June before. So it's been 4 months, no episode. And for those still sticking with us, or even for the people that are here for the first time, like, let's get hyped. Let's get it going. Let's get ready to play. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of Rumbleverse Radio. I was Nick.
And I was Nate.
And until next time, we'll see you down in Grappital City.
Oh, and don't forget leg day.